Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. Happy New Year to you. دوستان عزیز نوروزتون مبارک باشه. امیدوارم سال 1395 شمسی برای همه ما سال خیلی خوبی باشه. I'm so happy to see so many friends, so many colleagues in this space. My name is Alidad Mafinezam. I am with the West Asia Council. I'm also a policy advisor at the American Iranian Council. And there are so many people we need to thank tonight for being here, for giving us their support as Americans, as Iranian Americans, and as global citizens. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome you here tonight. There are so many people we need to thank, and they're going to be thanked throughout tonight. But let me just begin with a few, and the list will go on, because we're going to have all of the organizations who made tonight's event possible, whose names you see on the banners outside, all the 10 organizations. You're going to see their representatives come and talk about what they do briefly later in the program after our VIP speeches. But let me just begin with a few names, and as I said, the list continues. First is James Warren. James is an outstanding lawyer in this city who moved many moons ago from the original Cambridge, UK, to the newer Cambridge, Cambridge, Massachusetts, from Cambridge University to Harvard, where he went to law school. James is a member of this august institution, and that is why we had the idea to hold this event here tonight, and we hope we could count on ongoing collaboration with the Cosmos Club. Thank you, James, for making this possible. Then is Forough Parvizian Yazdani, somebody who, in my opinion, really embodies, Forough really, in my judgment, embodies the whole notion of collaborative work, the community spirit, and I'm so thankful that she thought it was a good idea to have this event here tonight. Thank you, Forough. Couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much. Moving on, we have our chairman of our institute, Piruz Parvarande, chairman of the West Asia Council. He sends his regards from the San Francisco Bay Area. It is much of his generosity that has enabled our work at the West Asia Council. So on his behalf, I'd like to welcome you. He sends his regards, and Mr. Parvarande, and he looks forward to catching up with you later. Another crucially important person who's here with us tonight is Professor Hushang Amir Ahmadi. I don't know if he's in this room right now or maybe in the next room, but let's have a round of applause for Professor Amir Ahmadi. I believe nobody has done as much as this man over the past 30 years in trying to get these two peoples and these two countries to understand each other. I'm very indebted to him, not only because he was my professor at Rutgers, but equally importantly, because of what he has done to build bridges in what is arguably the most difficult and fraught relationship in international relations today. Thank you, Professor Amir Ahmadi. Moving on to the VIPs from the US government, Ms. Valerie Jarrett. We are so thankful that you could be with us tonight. Ms. Jarrett, I'm sure we all know, is a senior advisor to President Obama and director of the White House Office of Public Engagement and Intergovernmental Relations. We are so delighted that a woman, such a distinguished American who happened in a different era when relations were very different from what they are today, to spend a few of her early years in Iran because of the distinguished work that her family had done at that time to promote global health. So we are so delighted that Ms. Jarrett and her staff are here with us tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Then we have Director Leon Rodriguez here tonight of the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service. For anybody who's ever sought a green card or those of us who still seek one, this is probably the most important person in the room. Thank you so much for being here, Director Rodriguez and his staff. So before I turn the floor to Maryam Jamali, and before telling you about her and a little bit of a blurb about her background, and she's going to be introducing Ms. Jarrett for her remarks, let me just say that the reason I believe this event is special is that America is, as we all know, the archetypal nation of immigrants. If the notion of an immigrant country has any meaning, it's this country. I know, being also Canadian, that there are other countries that are similarly diverse, but this is the one that really got the ball rolling when it comes to being that original, that archetypal nation of immigrants. And I think Canadians are way up there too, don't get me wrong, but this is so important. I think that's the guiding theme here, that we are here as Americans or as wannabe Americans, and the fact that the US and Iran have a fraught diplomatic relationship should not detract from the ability of this distinguished community to establish itself as full-fledged Americans in this lovely country. That's the key point here. That while we have every hope that the political problems between the US and Iran will continue to be addressed in a peaceful way, the more important point, however, is not so much what Iran is about. The more important point for us here tonight is what America is all about. Its inclusiveness, its pluralism, its openness to new influences, and its dynamism and innovation. That, to me, is the guiding theme that has really brought us here tonight. And with those prefatory remarks, let me introduce to you a woman who has really made so much of what we're enjoying tonight possible, and that's Maryam Jamali. Thank you, Behrouz Enayati. Thank you. Thank you, Behrouz. Where is Maryam? Maryam Jamali is the research manager at the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, which is an institute in this city that works on communities who need some help to integrate better into the fabric of this country's civic life. Maryam is a research manager there and also runs some of their outreach programs. Prior to her role, she was at the National Iranian American Council, working as an administrator, and NIAC is one of our co-sponsors today. Prior to that, Maryam was in the Peace Corps in Guatemala, where she worked on urban and regional governance and indigenous empowerment programs. Truly outstanding member of the Iranian American community, fluent in Persian and fluent in Spanish. And English, I guess that goes without saying, and she's working on her Arabic. What a truly outstanding individual. Thank you, Maryam, for all that you've done. The floor is yours. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Mafinezam, for that kind introduction and the positive role you have played in collaboration with others to bring about this very special event. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Norooz party. I really hope you guys enjoy yourselves tonight. I'm very delighted to celebrate this very special event with you all, and I have a very distinguished member that I'd like to introduce to you. I'd like to introduce our honorary guest, who has an impeccable background, is a very well-respected and trusted advisor of the president, and has a unique background, as Alidad mentioned, Iran. Ms. Valerie Jarrett, she is the senior advisor to President Barack Obama, and she also oversees the Office of Public Engagement and Intergovernmental Affairs, and she is a chair on the Council of Women and Girls. Ms. Jarrett was born in Shiraz, and she spoke Farsi as a child, and she resided there until she was 5 years old. Her father, Dr. James Bowman, was one of the leading medical researchers and practitioners of his time and was offered a chairman position at the Nemazi Hospital in Shiraz, one of the oldest cities in Iran. Ms. Jarrett has worked throughout her tenure in the White House to mobilize elected officials, community leaders, and diverse groups of advocates to strengthen the middle class in America. She is the voice of the people, and she fights for important causes, from ongoing campaigns to end sexual assault, raise the minimum wage, working families, promoting gender equality, and early childhood education. Ms. Jarrett has helped the president develop a diverse coalition to execute a robust agenda. And working with a broad range of partners, Ms. Jarrett has helped lead efforts to economically and politically empower women, not only here in the US, but across the world. Her leadership, vision for a better America, and the endless commitment to stand up for what's right is a testament of who she is, and we're very, very honored that she is with us here tonight. If there is anyone who deserves the title of mentor to President Obama and the First Lady, it would be Ms. Jarrett. We are delighted that she has graced us with her presence. Ms. Jarrett, you are truly a role model and a role model for women as well, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Ms. Jarrett.
Thank you so much, Maryam, for that kind introduction. Salam alaikum. Arishama Mubarak. What a wonderful celebration. Thanks to all of the Iranian American organizations and members here this evening. I sincerely appreciate your invitation to join you in this very important Norooz celebration, and I'm honored to be with you. Norooz is a celebration of renewal that unites people from across the globe, from celebrants in Iran to Afghanistan, throughout the Middle East, Central Asia, China, and of course, right here in the United States. Because, as you heard, I was born in Shiraz, Iran, and lived there until I was 5, the Norooz festivities are among my earliest and fondest memories as a child. I remember the weather being perfect in Shiraz that time of year, and we celebrated and had joyful experiences at my parents' home where people brought me gifts. I remember that very vividly. The gifts, one of my clearest memories as a child. It was always a time full of joy, of hopefulness, of new beginnings, and I treasure those moments to this day. And it's a pleasure to be able to celebrate Norooz with all of you, and I'm looking forward to having some wonderful Persian food when we finish. America, as you heard, has always been a nation of immigrants. Our diversity makes America strong. Immigrants have always sewn their culture and traditions into the fabric of the American culture and enriched our country in so doing. But we're living in a time when some choose to stoke fears here in America, and many Iranian Americans have been targeted, bullied, attacked here in their own country. We must never forget that this country belongs to Iranian Americans just as much as it does to any Americans. Yet all too often, Iranian Americans are made to feel unwelcome in their own country. Although I was born an American citizen because both of my parents are Iranian, and you heard about my father's early time in Iran, helping to start the Nemazi Hospital and chairing the Department of Pathology at a time when the Shah was recruiting American and British and French and Spanish and Italian physicians to come over and worked hand in hand with Iranian physicians to share best practices. But although my parents are American citizens, my passport reflects that I was born in Iran. Yes, so I have experienced the look when I've gone through customs, both here and around the world. I've been detained temporarily, I might add, outside of the United States. I've been asked why I was born in Iran, the answer simply being my mother was there when she gave birth. That was not always satisfactory. And goodness knows that over the years, I have been a victim, as many of you all probably have, on social media with derogatory comments that I've tried very hard to ignore. Just as I'm sure my appearance here tonight will set off a frenzy on social media, and I could care less. But I hasten to add that sometimes the comments that I've received have been hurtful, and I have experienced pain, just as I am sure so many of you and your families have as well. But we have to remain strong, and we have to fight for the country that we love, and we cannot succumb to those who want to change our country to one that is intolerant, because we've worked too hard to be a country of tolerance. I ask you to please remember what President Obama said when we visited the Islamic Society of Baltimore just last month. He said, "We are one American family, and when any part of our family starts to feel separate or second class or targeted, it tears at the fabric of our nation." This year, thank you. This year, the spirit of Norooz and of new days and new beginnings has taken on even greater significance. We have an individual and a collective responsibility to educate all Americans about the Iranian American culture and way of life, and the fact that Iranian Americans are Americans. You teach in our schools, you create jobs, you serve our community, you save lives in our hospitals, you serve in the public sector, you are creators of art and culture and much, much more. And you should be treated with the same respect and dignity all Americans deserve. When the president first took office, he pledged to other nations that, quote, "We will extend a hand if you are willing to unclench your fist," an offer based on the belief that relationships that are built on mutual respect and interests open up a possibility of creating a safer world and a brighter future. And since then, every day, the president has worked hard to deliver on that promise. And today, we are steadfast in our belief that the historic Iranian deal that so many people in this room supported, if implemented, if it's successfully implemented, it will not just make our world safer, but also hold the potential to create a future worthy of the vibrance of the Iranian people and a better future for us all. Again, as someone with childhood ties to Iran and a heartfelt appreciation for the ancient and proud civilization, I look forward to the progress I know we can achieve together. So in closing, I want to read a poem that adorns the United Nations headquarters in New York, and which President Obama has recited in previous messages celebrating Norooz. It was written by an Iranian poet named Sahadi Shirazi, because I'm Shirazi. To those of you who are not from Shiraz, you understand that once you're a Shirazi, always a Shirazi. The poem says, "The children of Adam are limbs to each other, having been created in one essence." And Dr. Martin Luther King also wrote, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." Sentiments all Americans should hold dear. So let's enjoy this Norooz celebration. Let's recognize that every time we celebrate Norooz, we have a new opportunity for a new beginning. And let's join together in that new beginning and making sure that our country continues to be the strong, vibrant, diverse, tolerant country that we all love. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jarrett, for those inspiring remarks and the example that you've set. Now we're going to move on to our other keynote speaker, Director Rodriguez of the USCIS, but to introduce him, I would like to call on Leila Mansouri, who is going to introduce Director Rodriguez. Leila is really one of the reasons we're having an event like this here tonight. She is just so inspiring and energetic. An Iranian American lawyer, born in Virginia. She calls herself first-generation Iranian American and a proud Virginian and proud of her Iranian heritage. Leila is a lawyer who did her undergraduate work at George Mason in business administration. Then she did her law degree at the University of District of Columbia. There, because of UDC's strength in public interest law, she did over 800 hours of work for people who need legal help but can't afford it. So that's her community spirit. Thank you for all that you've done. Leila is also the president of the Iranian American Bar Association, DC chapter, and a member of the National Board of Directors of IABA. I'm so delighted to introduce Leila to you. Thank you.
Thank you for those kind words. Hi, everyone. I'm Leila Mansouri. I'm the president of the Iranian American Bar Association here in DC and a co-host of this event. I'm here to introduce our next keynote speaker. But first, I wanted to also thank the director of the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement is also here tonight, Director Sarah Saldana. Thank you so much for being here. What you do is so important, and we really appreciate it. Our next keynote speaker is the Director of United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, Mr. Leon Rodriguez. You all should want to be best friends with this man. He has the power to grant green cards and visas to your relatives and to make them citizens. We are so incredibly honored to have him here. Some of you folks may still think immigration is called INS, but it's not. INS was replaced in 2003 when the Department of Homeland Security was created. We have USCIS now, and our next speaker is head of the entire agency. The director of USCIS is responsible for administering and processing asylum and refugee applications, immigration benefits, visas, and naturalization petitions. They receive thousands of applications every week. It's no easy task. Director Rodriguez, I think everyone in this room is going to try and invite you over for dinner now, but me first. All of the Iranian Americans in this room have personally dealt with immigration at some point in their lives. No one understands the Iranian American experience better than Director Rodriguez. Just like many of us, he is the son of immigrants and grandson of refugees. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, to Cuban immigrants. His grandparents came to Cuba from Turkey and Poland to escape anti-Semitism. How proud are we to have a director that has shared and understands our experience? Director Rodriguez is a graduate of Brown University and Boston College School of Law. He was nominated by President Obama and confirmed by the Senate. Before joining USCIS in 2014, he held several positions and titles in government, including Director of the Office for Civil Rights at the Department of Health and Human Services, Chief of Staff and Deputy Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the Department of Justice, United States Attorney in Pittsburgh, Trial Attorney in the Civil Rights Division at the DOJ, and Senior Assistant District Attorney in New York. What USCIS does is crucial, and it touches the lives of almost everyone we know. Please join me in welcoming Director Rodriguez here tonight.
Merci, Leila, for that very kind and very charming and very funny introduction. Good evening and Happy New Year. شب شما خوش و عید شما مبارک. I am delighted to have the opportunity to wish all of you a new year and to celebrate, as Director Jarrett suggested, a new day on this joyous first day of spring. I believe that I am the luckiest appointee in the administration. I'll tell you why. Because I believe that talent does not speak one language. I believe that hard work does not practice one faith. I do not believe that love and devotion to family comes from any single country. The strength, the true strength of America is that this is what we believe as a country. Look at this room. Look at the talent. Look at the achievement. Look at the class. And you know that this is true. You know that the Iranian community is Exhibit A of this truth. And so tonight I want to talk a little bit about the things that we are doing at USCIS to promote a more welcoming America. Before I do that, though, I want to thank several of you for the organization that I have received tonight. There are 10 Iranian American organizations that are graciously hosting the celebration. They include the Pars Equality Center, the Children of Persia, the Iranian American Bar Association, Iranian American Community Center, Iranian American Women Foundation, National Iranian American Council, Iranian Medical Society of Greater Washington, Public Affairs Alliance of Iranian Americans, West Asia Council, and Aryan Hope Foundation. And I am not only willing to be invited over for dinner, but I am also available regularly for backgammon challenges. As I shared with a few of you earlier this evening, because my family is from Turkey, the very first Farsi that I learned were the numbers in Sheshbesh. And of course, I've managed to learn a little bit more since. I want to talk a little bit of the work that President Obama has directed us to do through the Task Force for New Americans. And what we are doing in this task force is not new, but it is more comprehensive than ever before. And what is underlying the direction that we received from President Obama is the idea that we best harness the energy, the power, the promise, the potential of our immigrant communities by ensuring the civic, linguistic, and economic integration of those communities. And one of the key lessons that was learned as we engaged in communities throughout the country was that in order to do this successfully, we needed to make sure that we engaged in all kinds of communities in ways that were culturally appropriate and linguistically appropriate. And there's a reason for this. If you look at it, 28% of all new businesses are started by immigrants. Even larger numbers of new workers, and across not just the many, many professionals that we see in a room like this one, but across our economy, many of our new workers are going to be coming from immigrant communities. And so we've accomplished this in two ways. One is to engage with local communities throughout the country, to work with them, to welcome immigrant communities in their jurisdictions to encourage them to make the choice of United States citizen. And one of the things that I want you to remember is that no matter how poisonous the discussion of immigrants seems to be, watch the mayors. Watch mayors like Bill de Blasio in New York. Watch mayors like Mayor Garcetti in Los Angeles. Watch the mayor of my hometown in Miami-Dade County in Florida, because where people really live, the mayors are saying, we want you. We want you to become American citizens. We want you to get green cards. We want you to open businesses. We want you to start professions, because they know that this is really truly the strength of our country. The other thing that we have done is to engage in a multimedia campaign through digital media, through print media, through radio, to really promote the choice of a United States citizen. But let me underscore one thing that we know. We're here in Washington. I could travel all year long, and I will not have reached all of the communities in this country that we need to reach. So I need your help. I need the help of all of you who are looking to start community centers, who are starting up community organizations, who are running community organizations to promote within your community and outside of your community the choice to become fully integrated in our society. Now, there's a few other things that we're doing. We're working to expand language access to make sure that those who come to us will feel welcome, both in a cultural, from a cultural and linguistic perspective. And we have heeded the call of President Obama to really beef up the work that we're doing to admit refugees to the United States, many of whom are still coming from Iran. I was in Vienna back in November, and in Vienna, as many of you know, is where we process individuals who are victims of religious persecution, coming from Iran, coming from Iraq, coming from all kinds of places. And so I met a number of Iranian refugees who were looking forward to their resettlement here in the United States, to their resettlement in Arizona, their resettlement in California. And I saw in them the hope that I saw in the community where I grew up in Miami, Florida. I want to share one final story before I wrap up. As you heard Leila mention, I am myself the child of refugees. And in very recent years, I learned a story. I knew that before my parents had come to the United States, that my father, my grandfather, and my mother's uncle had all been detained at different points for no reason, really, by the police in Cuba. What I learned recently was that although my grandmother and my grandfather were able to get visas to come to the United States, my great uncle was not. And the reason was, and this may be a familiar story to some of you, he was actually a Turkish citizen. That quota was oversubscribed, and he could not come to the United States. And my grandmother said, I will not go to the United States and leave my brother behind, because I fear that if I leave him behind, he will be arrested once more, and this time there will be nobody to speak for him. And so my grandmother and my grandfather chose not to leave their country. While they waited for my uncle to get a visa, which he finally did get to come to the United States, my grandfather became ill and he died, which meant that I was never able to meet my grandfather, who I am told I both look like and act like. I was never able to have the joy of having grown up with his guidance and by his side. And so what we learn is that the story of immigration is a story often of the sufferings that we leave behind in the countries that we came from, but it is also a story of the hopes and dreams that we have here. And hopes and dreams, as I started to say, that don't just speak one language, don't just look one way, don't just pray to one God, don't just come from one place, but in fact, it is the whole world that brings its talent, its energy, and its love here. And I will always be proud to have been able to be the leader to make this that kind of America. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to have brief. Thank you, Director Rodriguez. Thank you so much for those remarks. We are now going to have brief presentations, very brief, by all the organizations that have made tonight's events possible. If I could ask those of us who are in the room who represent the 10 organizations who made tonight possible to come on stage, that would be very nice.